Hey, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining with us today. My name's Joni Ogg, and on behalf of travelprofessionalnews.com and homebasedtravelagent.com and findahosttravelagency.com, I want to welcome all of you to today's webinar, and I thank you for taking the time out of your very busy day to join with us. We're thrilled again to welcome our friend, speaker today, David Malhofer. He's the Vice President of Sales and Engagement at Travel Planners International, or TPI, which many of us know it by. Dave is a seasoned professional with over 2 decades of experience in the travel industry. And prior to joining TPI, he held key positions at renowned companies such as Celebrity Cruises, Colette Vacations, and Enterprise Rent-A-Car, where he excelled in sales, account management, and leadership roles. He has a proven track record of leadership, building and maintaining very strong relationships, prospecting new business opportunities, which is one of the things we're going to talk about today, and delivering very engaging presentations and trainings. He's got a bachelor's degree in recreation and leisure services management from East Stroudsburg University of Pennsylvania. And Dave brings a unique blend, and such a friendly blend of industry expertise and educational qualifications to TPI. Today's webinar is 5 affinity groups you want to work with. 2 very lucky attendees are going to win 30-minute consultations with Dave, so be sure to listen carefully for your chance to win. And also, one more lucky attendee is going to win a $50 Amazon gift card, courtesy of Travel Professional News and the Ogg family. So just remember that you're all muted, but we welcome your questions at any time. You can type those in the question area that you see on the right-hand panel of your screen. And when the presentation is over, we're going to take as many questions as we can. So I'm going to turn it over to Dave right now. Go for it, Dave. It's all yours.
Thank you, Joni, and thank you, everybody who's tuned in, or if, of course, you're listening to this recording. Thank you for your time and everything that you do, for your commitment into this crazy, crazy travel industry and travel world we all work in. So, hello, yes, my name is Dave Malhofer, and I won't rehash what Joni mentioned to you, but I've been in the industry for quite a while, and one of my favorite things to speak about, and really just even share with our advisors, is all things affinity groups. Today we're going to focus on 5 affinity groups which you want to work with. They are everywhere, and if you keep your ears and eyes open, you can find them just about everywhere you go. The town you live in, the community, the city, the state, all throughout the country, affinity groups are everywhere, whether it's conducting different events, gatherings, getting together and doing so much, including travel, where us here in the travel community can definitely look to service them and also benefit from when it comes to building your business. So let's get into it. Okay, affinity groups. And I'm going to assume that many of you on this call that are listening in have worked with affinity groups before. There may be many of you tuned in who don't know what an affinity group is or haven't really thought about it when it comes to selling travel. So hopefully a little bit of information for the newer advisors will be out there, but also some reminders or even some news or some tactics that I'll share with some of those experienced advisors. Okay, so this here, again, general overview stuff, okay? When we speak about affinity groups, we are talking about groups of like-minded people, right? Like-minded individuals. Think about yourself, and where I always start off with, again, our company, Travel Planners International, host agency, right? We have conferences, we have events, we have things like that. So when we go away, let's just say, for example, our annual conference, when we're there, right, we're socializing, we're networking, we're having breakout sessions, we're having awards ceremonies, meetings, dinners and meals and lunches and breakfasts. We're having cocktail parties, a variety of things, right? We're a group. We are a group of like-minded individuals going on that cruise, going to that all-inclusive resort, whatever it may be. But at the end of the day, even, us as a host agency and our community of advisors, we are an affinity group. For those of you tuned in, think about it yourself, right? And it could be with the agency you work with, whether it's a host or another travel agency. It could be a group of, that you network with, maybe your quote unquote, your travel tribe, right? Your people that every now and then you go away for different things, whether it's retreats or getaways. Your husband, your wife, your kids, your grandparents. Think about those family and friends who have involvements with a variety of groups, and the people they associate with are typically like-minded. So they may be part of some of these groups we're going to explore today. Affinity groups, I like to call it easiest sales multiplier, right? And when I say the easiest sales multiplier, it's, okay, you book that group, right? That affinity group. Maybe it's 20 people. Maybe it's 100 people. I don't know. But right there, right? Think about your database, your customer list. Think about right now you're adding, instead of that, Mr. and Miss Smith, that the twosie, right? The two people you just booked on a cruise. Maybe now you got your hands on this group, and now you're adding 20 names to your database, 50, 100, whatever it might be. And then think about what that can turn into year after year, repeat business. Think about what that can turn into, right? You have an affinity group, and now they need some shore excursions. They're going to want some private tours. They're going to want insurance. They're going to want the add-ons, the pre-stays, the post-stays. There's so much with groups where it just multiplies your sales. And always keep your antennas up. We're going to get into this a little bit later on, and I've said this on past broadcasts before. I'll say it again today. I'll say it over and over again. Keep your antennas up. Keep your ears and eyes open, right? Always be on the lookout for those groups. And when you find one, whether you're intentionally looking for them or you happen to bump into one, start to ask questions. Find out everything you can about that group and what the potential is going to be for you to book them on their next group trip. Okay, let's start off with affinity group. Number one today, we're going to talk about active senior communities. I see keyword active, buyer beware, right? And I've worked with many, many communities in the past. And I've also looked and cold called and reached out and tried to dig up that gold in local communities, specifically looking for these active senior communities. I say buyer beware because you know what? Some are extremely active. Some say they're very active, but maybe their level of activity is a short, 2-hour day trip somewhere. You want to find the ones that, of course, are maybe going to get on a plane and travel to Europe. Maybe they're going to get on that cruise ship, whatever it may be. But you're looking for active senior communities. I'm going to share with you, the why and what active senior communities can bring to you and your business. And then you think purely about the numbers, right? I mean, you see up on the screen there, if you noticed it there in the middle, estimated 20,000 or more active senior communities all throughout the United States. Some of the states where there are some hotbeds: Florida, Arizona, California, Texas, South Carolina, North Carolina, Nevada, Tennessee. I'm a New York guy. I live here in Long Island. And over the years, working with many of our travel advisors and many groups in this area, I know New Jersey and even parts of New York, they have some hotbeds of communities as well with these active senior communities. So let's explore the why. Let's talk about the why when it comes to this type of affinity group. Many of them have pre-established travel clubs. Now, keyword pre-established. I always say fish where the fish are. It's extremely tough to make something out of nothing, right? And think about it. You're exploring, looking for these senior communities. You happen to, hear about one, or maybe you have a friend or relative or somebody that's maybe they live there, right? Or they have a friend of a friend who lives there. Now you're digging, you're qualifying, right? Many of times you might find out, oh yeah, we have, Anne, she runs the travel club in our community, or Steve, he always puts together the trips, whatever it might be. Many of them have pre-established travel clubs, and then you want to find out what they do. What kind of trips are they doing? Are they doing just the short day trips and bus trips that maybe won't take you anywhere regarding, you looking to book these big trips for them? But then there are some that might, hey, last year we had 50 people go to Greece. Next year we have, 2 motor coaches filled going to the national parks. The opportunities are there, and looking for the ones with pre-established travel clubs could be key. Think about it, right? Some of these senior communities are very high-end, very posh. You need to have a lot of money to live there. Now, I'm not saying every single community might be like that. There's something for everybody. When it comes to the types of trips that are going to make you money, active senior communities, many of them have money, and I'm talking about the residents. I'm talking about the people and the customers. Many of them have money and they have time. Many of them are retired, if not all of them, right? So they have the time, they have the money. And that's one of the big reasons why you should keep this type of Vinny group on your radar. And then the loyalty factor. The loyalty factor, right? Like thinking of my grandparents back in the day, my mother, I'm going to talk about my mother later on. But seniors are extremely loyal to the ones they like, the ones they trust. So once you get your hands on these senior communities, there's a good chance you could book them over and over and over again. It's just a matter of getting your foot in the door and closing the deal. Okay, do we have any of my AI lovers out there, the Chat GPT lovers, those of you who are diving into that world, right? And I'm not talking about making fancy reels and doing TikToks and all that good stuff, right? We're talking about the senior communities, and I'm talking about finding them. I mentioned before, I'm a New York guy. I've worked in the Northeast area for quite a long time. And this was, before my days here at TPI, back in my BDM days and all that good stuff. I would actively look for these groups with our travel partners. Gosh, I wish I had these tools back then. So ChatGPT, and this is just an example of something you can do in your area. So for the example, I jumped in there. I said, hey, show me 5 55 plus senior communities in the New Jersey area that organize group trips, cruises, vacations, things like that. And boom, check this out. And it's highlighted in yellow, right? You have 5 examples here. And I highlighted in yellow some keywords that came up. So right at the top, Heritage Point in Barnegat, New Jersey. Active adult community near the Jersey Shore, offers a variety of social clubs. And here it is, organized trips, including cruises and group vacations. For me, that's ding, 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 ding. If anybody's listening to me right now that's in New Jersey, look up Heritage, call them, give them a call. I don't know if you live there. But this example here, utilizing ChatGPT, asking very specific questions, can help you find, and this is one type of affinity group, right? But this will narrow it down. Like Google is great, and I'll actually share an example of Google later on as well. But utilizing some of these tools at your disposal and at your fingertips, you can get very specific with finding the exact types of groups you want, and eliminating some of those other groups. And in the category of these 55 plus active senior communities, right there, I got specific. I want to know people who organize group cruises, tours, or vacations. And this here gives you 5 examples. And again, it's countless. It really is. You got to do some digging, put some time into it, but utilizing those tools at your fingertips is key for those groups. Okay, let's talk about alumni groups. Now, when you think about alumni, typically my mind goes towards schools, universities, things like that, right? So for the sake of schools and universities, colleges, we'll talk about that. But keep in mind, right, there are different alumni associations. Again, we're talking alumni associations, retiree type associations that are out there with different corporations, companies, right? So let's talk about alumni groups. There's estimated 5,900 colleges and universities in the United States, over 47,000 public and private high schools, right? There are schools, high schools out there, colleges, universities. Some have very, very active alumni groups. It's just a matter of finding them. Now, I shared with you the numbers, right? And I shared a plethora of opportunity. There's a ton out there when it comes to the alumni associations. I've worked with a number of smaller, community colleges to the larger schools, right? And some of it was done through, networking opportunities, meeting people, finding individuals, travel advisors who had some ins regarding schools, universities, and whatnot. Some of them I found cold, and it was just a matter of making a phone call and speaking to their alumni group. And other times it's going into the chat GPTs, the Googles, and all that good stuff, looking for these types of groups. But you want to talk about, types of organizations and potential travel business when it comes to affinity groups, schools, universities, they are abundant. Mentioned it before, sales multipliers, right? And now you think about this one. There are many schools and universities out there that have established travel programs, and they are set, right? Every year there is a class graduating, which is building up that alumni base every year, which means trips and travel opportunities typically are happening every year. And same premise. Think about, again, if it's a group, even a group of 12, a group of 20, a group of 50, a group of 100, much better than one new customer, two new customers. So the sales multiplier in the respect of repeat business, but also all of the add-on business that comes along even with one trip, it's there and it's evident with some of these alumni programs. I touched on this. Many of them have existing travel programs as well. So I always say fish where the fish are. Don't try to make something out of nothing. Working and attempting to close the deal with established travel programs, and in this case, alumni programs, is a lot easier than, working with the school or attempting to work with the school or alumni program that they're just looking to get it off the ground and running. I'm not saying don't do it, but you got to look for the ones that are already traveling that'll hopefully, or that should prove to be the most fruitful. Just Google it. Check this out. So check this out. Literally, a few days ago when I was doing some final prep for today, I said, all right, let me take a look. And I was just thinking of some affluent types of universities, right? Here you go, Ivy League. Check out Harvard. This took me, a minute. I just went in there. I said, Harvard alumni program travel. I did something like that. And then boom, pulled up the website, went into their alumni section, and then check this out. There were literally dozens of planned trips that the Harvard Alumni Association is currently promoting in 2025 and 2026. Dozens. Now, this doesn't mean you're going to call them. They're going to say, yes, let's talk. Let's book some group trips. Obviously, it's going to take some work. You're going to have to do some research. What kinds of groups are these? At first glance, if you're following me here on the screen, right up at the top, you see Southern Africa Odyssey, followed by the Moroccan Discovery. And then under that, you have Spring Break in Greece, and then an excursion to Iceland. So a number of these, right? It looks like they have study leaders. Next up, you got to find out, okay, what's this all about study leaders? What does that involve? Is that person going for free? If they're a leader, you got to assume maybe they need, they're going to need a free trip out of this. So, doing some research, finding out where they go. I mean, these types of trips that this group is doing, they're doing some big stuff here. They're doing some big stuff. Just another great way as far as the alumni and universities. All right, corporate meeting and incentive style groups. Corporate meeting and incentive style groups. Now, this one is also, and again, all of these are my favorite, but so you think about that, right? Everyone, if not a large majority of people, can think of whether it's you yourself, a family member, friends of yours, businesses or corporations that might be in your local area, might just be a stone's throw away. For me, I'm in Long Island. One of the first things that I keep speaking about in New Jersey is well next door. There's tons of pharmaceutical companies there. I mentioned before, at TPI, we have our annual sales conference Companies, so many of them, they have these annual trips. They have incentive trips and awards maybe for sales people within their company. They have executive getaways and retreats. Excuse me, right? There's so much opportunity when it comes to corporate meeting, incentive style groups. It just takes some time and you got to look for them. But the nice thing is this does have some very potential high volume and huge reward really overall. This is fantastic, right? Don't you prefer to have to deal with one person when it comes to payment versus 50 different credit cards, 50 different stories, 50 different deposits, all that good stuff? So with these types of groups, typically, if it's let's just say it's a big, a conference that a company is doing, usually they're going to cut you one big check. They're going to make one big payment, one credit card, whatever it might be. And then you would only typically have one, maybe 2 points of contact at that corporation, and they do a lot of the other admin work for you. Depending on the group, right? Depending on the corporation and the company. But many of time you're going to work with one point person, which is nice because then that helps alleviate some of the issues and things that you might have to work on or deal with. Annual trips, conferences, repeat business. Almost every company I've worked with since I graduated school way back in the day has some kind of annual conference. And they typically are going somewhere. It's just a matter of who is booking it. I challenge everybody that's listening right now. I challenge all of you with the next time you are staying at a hotel, and I'm talking about maybe some of the bigger chain hotels or ones that have conference or banquet space in it. Keep your ears and eyes open. Keep your antennas up, right? And be on the lookout for groups that are staying at that hotel. Those groups have to have booked their trip through someone. Hopefully it's a travel advisor. It might not be, but hopefully it is. And you never know. If you make that, I'm not talking about throwing business cards left and right, but I'm just saying keep your ears and eyes open because business might be looking at you right in the face. So these types of groups really involve quite a bit. But for this type of group too, it's all about expanding your imagination when it comes to who out there is traveling. And really thinking about what opportunities there may be for you to be their travel advisor of choice. This example here, I'm going to actually start from bottom to top. Really, there's two examples. So I pulled up a few things down in Florida, just to kind of see what's out there. And check this out. So Florida Power and Light Company, while primarily an energy company, FPL organizes corporate incentive trips, including group vacations and cruises for employees and business partners. Check that out. Imagine you're able to get your foot in the door, give them a call, look them up, try to get in contact with the decision maker. And next thing you know, you are the preferred advisor for Florida Power and Light Company in Juno Beach, Florida. I've never even heard of them. This is from a search I did. I'm up here in New York, but just from, again, sitting in my chair, looking at my laptop and going on some of these Googles and ChatGPTs, all I could, finding groups like this that I could potentially call to dig up some business. And then check that out. Number 6 was the Miami Dolphins. That came up in my search. Of course, if you're a football fan, the Dolphins sports franchise often promotes group travel packages that include tickets, cruises, and special events for fans. So over the years, back in the day when I was with Celebrity Cruises, I worked for a tour operator, right? We had different partnerships with a lot of different groups. I've worked with professional hockey organizations before. I've sailed with the New York Jets fan cruise, done quite a bit. And I'm telling you, if you could find your way into working with clubs or organizations like this and finding out what their needs are and what they're looking to do, it can really open up your world and open up your portfolio of clients and types of groups that you're working with. A quick plug, and I'm doing this really only because it's a great example, but a quick plug, my old company, Celebrity Cruises, Them, along with so many other cruise partners and companies, are phenomenal when it comes to what they offer advisors as resources when it comes to working with groups, charters, corporate groups, and other. I'm just sharing this as one example. All of our cruise partners are phenomenal. All of them have different resources available to advisors. But this was something here pulled from one of the celebrity sites, sharing a lot of information regarding what they do for corporate meeting and incentive groups, charters, and things like that. We're talking about event space. We're talking about including a lot more within that group environment and that group offering that they would not be able to get otherwise if people were booking it on their own. So a shout out to all of our cruise partners. This specific example was celebrity, but work with your travel partners regarding what they can do for you and, more importantly, for the group, so that you could have the tools you need and the resources to close the deal. Okay, we are on to nonprofits. I think we only have a couple of more here. Nonprofit organizations. When you think about nonprofits, okay, think about, and I feel like it's expanded over time, where every day in my email inbox, every day on Facebook, every day somebody's asking me for money, right? And I got to pay my bills. I got my kids to take care of, all that good stuff. But there's a lot of nonprofits out there looking to raise money. And this is a big opportunity for all of us in the travel world. Nonprofits depend on this fundraising, right? Many of them depend, and they run many of their fundraisers on an annual basis. Travel, to many of these nonprofits, is a new way for them to raise money. It's in some cases, it's a way for them to raise money that they never even were aware of. When I think back to, some of the nonprofits I've been involved in, just on a personal level, but then also some that I've worked with, one of the common denominators was, and is, so many of them do the typical fundraisers. Many of them will do their art auction or galley. Many of them will do a golf tournament, right? A golf tournament. Then some will do like a casino night, or maybe a wine tasting or something at a winery, right? There's kind of like 3, 4, maybe 5 staple fundraisers that so many of them do, because you know what? It's easy. They've maybe done it before. They know other companies have done it, or other organizations have done it before. And I say it's easy, but think about their donor base, and some of them that have thousands and thousands of donors. Some have a smaller amount, but typically the bigger nonprofits, they do have in some way, shape, or form an affluent following that is willing to give a good amount of their money back to this organization, as far as donations go, and what they do to stay involved and support these nonprofits. But travel is truly, 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 and can be something very, very new that provides many, many benefits. That's the other thing, large and repeat group potential. Large group potential and repeat group potential. When you think about it, right, a lot of these nonprofits will have, directors of development. They may have executive boards. They typically have, a certain representation of affluent people at the head. And many of them have a big following, a loyalty base. And aside from that, once they have one successful trip, many of them will do it year after year, because the nice thing is they're offering something different. Maybe it's a cruise this year, next year a tour to Italy, the following year it's an all-inclusive somewhere in the Caribbean. I mean, the opportunity for travel and nonprofits and marrying them together is phenomenal. All right, another example from ChatGPT, right? Took a look at some nonprofits in my local area. And again, I'm in Long Island, New York. And a couple things came up, right? The Long Island chapter for the American Cancer Society apparently has done things like charity cruises, or other types of trips in support of cancer research and services. Maybe I should give them a call tonight and see what's happening, right? Dig in. What do they have planned for next year? Where did they go last year? Are they looking to put something else together where I can find them some amazing opportunities and provide a fundraising component to it? And then the other example being the Long Island Alzheimer's Foundation, And this one, of course, gave a little bit of information, says they've done fundraisers, including cruises and destination tours. So again, this doesn't guarantee that they're doing them now or that they will be doing them, but this is a great way to start versus just going in completely cold. Okay, my fifth and final one for tonight, and there's a whole lot more out there, but as far as one of the affinity groups that you must start selling and looking into is your come along group, the come along group. And hopefully all of you know what this is, but if not, I will share with you. This is you, okay? Typically, I say, let's start off with you. This is you, right? The agency owner, the travel advisor, the trusted travel agent, whatever you want to be called. This is you leading your group. You are the face, the name, the Pied Piper. You could always substitute yourself out with somebody else that has a following. Again, we shared with you 4 other affinity style groups, but the come along group, this is basically somebody that has a following. Maybe it has a loyal base of clients, a loyal base of friends, family. People want to hang with this person and come along with them, right? So I always use the example and say, why not start with yourself, right? You run a successful travel agency. Maybe you're just starting one off. You have your network of people. Kick things off with a come-along trip. Now, I almost said in this part, right there in the middle, I almost said guaranteed annual group, but I mean, it's not guaranteed. So I said almost guaranteed. And I say that because it's a matter of what you put into it and how successful that first trip is going to be in order to run it back again next year. Maybe it doesn't have to be the same trip, but create an annual type of come along trip where now, okay, Dave next year is going to Costa Rica. Yes, great. And the next year with Dave, he's doing a cruise tour in Alaska, whatever it might be. These types of things can create that annual repeat business, especially when you start grooming your customer list, your friends, your family into your annual trip. And then building customer loyalty, right? That's huge. Customer loyalty is huge. No better way to do it than to spend some quality personal time while on vacation. You get to learn a lot about each other when you're traveling with each other, right? With your cabins, you're sleeping right next door to them. Or you're waking up having breakfast with them every morning, whatever it might be. But you're learning so much with your people, your customers, right? Friends, family, everybody who's traveling with you. The old grand opening analogy, and I say the grand opening, right? Think about this, especially for those of you who are new to the business, for anybody who hasn't done a come along trip before, but you've been thinking about it. Think about when so many people open up their new retail establishment, right? It's a storefront. It might be a new online store, but long story short, they typically have some kind of grand opening. Think about it. Put yourself now in those shoes. Maybe you work from home. Maybe you don't have a storefront in a retail area, brick and mortar, all that, right? Whatever it might be, but you are still a business. You are a travel agency looking to fulfill dreams and send people all over the world. What better opportunity is there than setting up an annual come along trip? And you're not going to call it a come along trip to them, but you could say this is our inaugural trip with XYZ Vacations. Come join me as we sail to Italy and Greece in 2025, 2026. But that whole grand opening concept, right? Frame up your trip, your travel with your client base, maybe your friends and family, and start something anew that now you can look to possibly do this every single year. Some quick tips. If that sounds good to you and you want to get into it, most importantly, you got to think of, again, your calendar. When are you going to go and where are you going? How much time do you have? What's going to be desirable to your client base, your friends and family, whoever you think is going to be going? You got to think of something that's going to fit that audience. If you've never done one before, I suggest doing something. Maybe it's a shorter cruise. I say that 4, 5, 6-night cruise, a few days at an all-inclusive, something that's not too time-consuming, maybe not too expensive, depending on the group, but finding something that's going to be accessible for many. That way you can get your numbers up. But again, you might have a network of people that I say are highly affluent, and now you want to go and jump on that luxury cruise, that 10-night vacation, whatever it is. Great, have at it. It's really up to you and what's going to be a good fit for your customer base and yourself as far as promoting goes. But you want something that you're going to be excited about. Always look to hopefully get a core group of people, right? Because nobody typically wants to be the first person signing up for something, right? You want to know that other people are going, other people are interested. So look to get a core group and then promote it. And then think about what's going to add great value to your group and this come along type of inaugural cruise, tour, whatever you might be doing. Curate and identify what makes your group trip different. Because no matter what, even if you're, good, Uncle Steve who loves you and loves everything you do, even Uncle Steve or others out there are going to start price shopping. You're going to start looking around just to compare. You want to make sure that you are offering something special and unique to your clients, friends, family, whoever might be going on that. Okay. Gotta love this picture here, and I mentioned this before. Let's talk about antennas up. Oops, we're gonna bring that back here for a second there. Let's talk about antennas up. And then that was a sneak peek at my mom. So antennas up. This is about you keeping your ears and eyes open everywhere you go, everything you do. Always in the back of your mind, be looking out for groups. Always, right? I mentioned before, the next time you're at a hotel, keep your ears and eyes open around the conference space, right? The banquet halls. See what kind of signage is out there, what kind of groups, whether it's corporate groups or others that are traveling. And when you're at, your next big party, barbecue, holiday thing, whatever it is, and you're having conversations with people, keep an ear and eye open, right? How many times do you see somebody wearing that hat, blah, blah, blah organization, or the association of blah, 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 whatever.com, right? There's company logos, things like that. Engage, ask questions, keep your antennas up so that you're not missing business that's right in front of you. And this also comes to family, friends, right? This is my mom. She just turned 80. So everyone can say happy birthday, Dave's mom. It was end of January. She turned 80 years old. In any case, that is my mom. And I say keep your antennas up because back in the day when I was a BDM4 tour operator, it was one of those days where I was trying to think about what other opportunities are out there with travel advisors I work with my friends and family, with group tie-ins. How can we bring it all together? And then I remembered my mom had left a nonprofit organization about 4 years prior to when I was starting to think about this whole thing. And it came to me, it was strange. I had never really spoken to her about the company she worked for and this nonprofit she worked for. And if they did any kind of travel, I assumed they did fundraising, but I had the conversation with my mom, and she was gone there for 4 years. She was in the accounting side of things, so she didn't really know what they were currently doing. And she didn't remember if they were doing travel back when she worked there. So we got talking. And this here, it's the Cerebral Palsy Association of Nassau County. And she gave me the name of the director of development that she used to know. Not very well, but she knew the name. And, she said he would probably remember her. So I said, all right, I'm going to give him a call next week. I gave him a call. And basically from that call, over the next 3 years, booked him and his organization on trips. It was 2 different cruises to Bermuda and also a tour of Italy. And these trips had minimum, I think it was like 30, 33, and like 50. So it all stemmed from me thinking about my network of people, my family, any tie-ins, associations, affiliations that they had. And it led me to 3 nice-sized group bookings. And this was just one, going down one hole here, thinking about, my mother's contacts, places that she had worked. One of the biggest things regarding, and I think back to this because this is one of the big selling points, and this goes really with any affinity group, but with nonprofits, it can go a long way. One of the big selling points of going on this group travel, and I mentioned before that the quality time, right? Getting to know people on a more personal level through travel. It's a known fact, right? That happens when you travel. You really get to know people. But then you think about it, let's think about nonprofits, right? Why do they run these trips? Why do they do these golf outings and other fundraisers? It's to make money, right? To raise funds. So when you think about it, and let's just think about one of the cruises that this organization did with us, again, with us when I was back then. So not only were they, generating money for every person who booked the cruise, but then on the cruise ship, they would have cocktail parties. And during the cocktail parties, the director of development would get up on a microphone and welcome everybody and thank everyone and schmooze them and then ask for more money, right? They had other ways of raising money and developed some fundraisers during the cruise with this audience of very affluent people and donors. And it was just a win-win-win-win-win in every respect regarding utilizing travel and a cruise in this case to help raise money for their organization. So they had a captive audience, let's just call it. Think about tour and motor coaches, right? Motor coach tours throughout the world. Think about, a director of development or a Pied Piper, whoever it is, now having that audience on a motor coach. I'm not saying trapping them and giving them a sales pitch for 3 hours, but just the access, right? The personal bonds that could be formed, opportunities to really, really develop a travel program. And for us, for you as a travel advisor, the repeat business is tremendous. Okay, don't really worry about all the words on this screen here. I just went in and asked for a real basic plan of how to start developing affinity group business. Another thing you could do on Chat GPT and some of these other tools that are out there, right? Feel free. If you have your phone handy, feel free to take a screenshot, a snapshot of this, but you could also do it yourself. It's regarding setting yourself up a plan. The reason why I put this slide here is to encourage everyone, if you are serious about affinity group business, you must plan for it and you must commit to it. It's not one of those things where you can maybe make a few phone calls, send out a few emails, and then just sit there and pray for weeks and weeks and months and months. You'll get a lot of no's if you're really looking and digging hard. But through that hard work, you can find some really, really nice pieces of business there. So have a plan. Well, Joni, that wraps up 5 affinity groups that everybody should be selling.
Awesome.
And I just want to thank you and thank everybody who tuned in. Hopefully that was insightful and everybody can walk away here today with a few learnings.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We do have some questions for you as well, if you can take a few.
For sure.
First, great. Thank you. And thank you for all that great information. How do I determine the ideal group size for an affinity group that I'm planning? That's a question from Michelle.
It's a great question, right? One of the things is, and that's going to go into your initial qualifying interview questions, that meeting that you have with a Pied Piper, group leader, or whoever it is, on that other side that's going to help you, promote the group and ultimately fill the cabins or fill the space on the motor coach or hotel. So that's one of the things regarding numbers. You're going to have to, ask them about what past trips they've done and ask about the size of those groups, right? If they've never done a group trip before or a group cruise or anything like that, you want to start off small. If they're telling you and they have a proven track record of selling a minimum of 100 cabins every cruise they do, all right, now you're looking at some more space. So it's really a matter and a case-by-case basis with the group you're working with.
Okay, thank you. So another question was, how do nonprofits make money on a trip? Okay, so I'm assuming they're kind of inquiring about that, what you discussed about the nonprofits. In other words, Tina says, what would I be offering them?
Sure. So really, there's a few things. I'll speak to the cruise side. Actually, I'll speak in general terms first. So, nonprofits, yes, right? They're one of their goals is to raise money, right? They need to raise this money. So, as far as travel and trips go, many travel partners out there, many, not all, they already have predetermined, setups regarding working with nonprofits and what they potentially can give back, even from their side of things. The utilization of gap points with the cruise lines, right? The group amenity program and group amenity points. These are extra amenities and dollar signs and dollar amounts that could be allocated towards different groups. And this is just one example, but now, right, instead of offering a group, I'm just making this up, instead of offering them a cocktail party, now, through the cruise line, you're going to be able to offer, $25 per person as a fundraiser, $100, whatever that ends up being. So that's one avenue to go down. And again, a lot of this will be dependent on the cruise line, the tour operator, whoever you're working with. Some that have different requirements, terms, conditions. But ultimately, there's ways of, providing a fundraiser that will come from the partner side. Then there's also other ways where you're going to put a value add, right? So if the price of the trip is going to be $1,000 per person, for your trip, it's going to be $1,100 per person, and $100 is now going to go back to that nonprofit organization. You'll have to work through, okay, is that money going to be filtered through you and your agency? And you're just going to cut the check at the end of the day. So there's different ways of doing that. Many tour operators, cruise lines, they'll offer the tour conductor credit or the one complimentary trip for every X amount of passengers. So that's a dollar value too. So now maybe the director of development at a nonprofit wants to go for free, or the CEO of a company wants to go for free, or Jane, the group leader, right? So now you have, the more people they get, ultimately, the more money you can help give back to them if it's a nonprofit, or more value you give back if it's other types of groups.
Perfect. Okay. Question about flights for booking groups. So someone's asking, do you recommend booking flights when you're doing a group?
So it's that one. It's really determined by the travel advisor with how in tune they are with air, and then also, working with, depending on the size of the group, some companies do have air contracts and group air. Tour company I used to work with quite a while ago, you bundle it all together, the air from, one major gateway and then the tour package itself. So it's really, again, with that, you can qualify the group leader, right? When you finally get that meeting, whether it's virtually, on a Zoom or whether it's in person, asking them anything and everything to find out, what they want in their vacation. Some of them might say, no, I don't want to deal with the airfare because of whatever the reason might be. Other ones might say, I want everything included. And then you could either go the group air route, depending on the partner, or again, your own business doings, or, on an individual basis, because, you know, right? Like, and Joni, I'm sure you've come across this over the years. You have a group of 20 people, 20 different couples, but then, 4 of them only fly Delta. 2 of them will
Right.
only fly United. These people are going to drive, like,
It's
so
exhausting. Yeah,
case by
it
case.
is. The positive about doing the entire plan for people obviously is that what's going on. You as the advisor are aware, okay, this is when they're flying in. I know they're going to get there a day ahead of time, all that good stuff. Whereas when you're not involved in that piece of it, you're kind of in the dark as to where, how they're getting there and if they're going early enough. And so there's, 2 different schools of thought, right? You don't want to handle it, but then if you do, and it can be financially viable, I mean, you can, some of these carriers are very anxious now to work with travel advisors, and they're compensating them. So yeah, there's some positives in that regard as well.
Exactly.
So one more question for you here. This is kind of I think this question maybe a few people had, so I'm going to let you kind of answer to it. I kind of know what I'm thinking about what you're going to say, but I think I'll let you do that. A few questions about ChatGPT, and I personally, my husband is like, oh my God, he has every newsletter he gets known to man about all this new AI. I mean, he's
Yeah.
obsessed. He's obsessed to the point of driving me crazy, literally, but he's obsessed. And so I hear this stuff all the time. So we are constantly writing books, right? Because that's what we do. And we're updating our book right now, our How to Start a Home Base. And in writing that book, you can't help but not use ChatGPT to just make sure you're doing it right, right? Like what cruise lines are still going, to this destination.
Yep.
So it's a wonderful tool. It's an amazing tool, but it's research in a lot of ways. It's not the final result. So somebody's asking here, why are you asking ChatGPT in order to receive travel information that these groups are looking for? So I guess it's kind of, I don't know, you can answer this, Dave. It's kind of how you ask ChatGPT, right? It's how you ask the question.
Exactly. I guess I would compare it to, what would you rather do if you had a list of 20 colleges and universities, just the names of them, right? The names of them and their phone numbers. And now you had the option to sit down and call every single one of them right now and find out if they have traveled in the past. Do they or do they do any kind of group travel that would be a fit for a travel advisor to book, and make those 20 phone calls, right? That's a lot. That's a good amount of phone calls. It's going to be speaking with a lot of people, maybe leaving a lot of voicemails just to try to find out. You don't know if any of them travel, right? All of them can, or all of them may, but all of them may not. So you could take, maybe it's a couple hours, whatever it is, to call them and have conversations. Or the other option is now those 20 colleges, universities, I can look in ChatGPT and within seconds, they can break down which ones of those 20 actually might have an existing travel program. So now I am making 8 great phone calls to people I have a better inkling that they travel versus 20 phone calls. So now I'm saving time, energy. I'm already finding out a little bit more about them versus having to call and do all that legwork.
Perfect answer. Absolutely perfect answer. I think that it's all about, I know it's how you ask the questions, and it's all about how do you use that information to build your personalized business with your clients, I think.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think so. So I think we're good on the questions now. Now we get to do the questions to the audience and win some
All right.
prizes here. So folks, I want you just to remember that you're going to type the answer to the question that I'm going to ask, and you're going to type that into our keyboard. That is the correct terminology, I guess, into the question area that you see on the right. I'm showing my age, on the right hand side of the screen, okay? So again, you're just going to keyboard that into the questions area as fast as you can, because this happens quickly. So we've got 3 different questions. We have 2 consultations with Dave, and then we have an Amazon gift card. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. Are you folks ready? To set, go. I'm going to ask for, I'm going to take the first person that actually gets this right today. I'm taking the first. You better be ready, folks.
All right.
What are 2 good reasons why you should pursue active senior communities for group travel? Go.
Get them in there fast.
Yep. I've gotten a lot, but I want to make sure I get the right answer here.
Yep.
Okay. All right. I'm going to give this one to Yvette Shoemaker for the correct answer that I think. Okay. Yvette said extreme loyalty. Would that be correct, Dave?
That is definitely one of them. Yep.
Okay. All right. So we've got, hold on a second. Yvette. Okay. You want me to go ahead with that second question?
Already.
All right. Nonprofit groups typically do the same old types of fundraisers, excuse me, art auctions, golf tournaments, etc. And I'm going to take the 7th correct answer here, folks. What's one new and exciting idea for nonprofits to raise money? Go.
Let's see who gets this one right.
Yeah. Okay. Let me get down here. A lot of people are generalizing here and just saying, you know, I mean, they're correct answers, but they're not specifically what you wanted. So I'm going to,
Okay.
I'm going to go down to the first one that has that exact answer.
Sure.
And I would say that would be Susan Martin. Susan Martin answered with a group cruise together. Would you say that's correct, Dave?
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
we will take it for sure.
Okay, some of the others were what? Would you say would be other answers to that, Dave?
Well, overall, it's basically promoting group travel, right? Like getting away from the status quo, getting away from the usual, and promoting whether it's a group cruise, maybe it's something more, over to Europe, some kind of land package or tour. Really something to get people out of their comfort zone in some cases, or out of their communities, and really build that group affinity and build those personal relationships.
Exactly. All right, so our very last one, both of you folks are going to get an email from Dave. We'll be sending your email address to Dave so you can communicate with him and set up your consultations. Now, the next one is going to be for an Amazon gift card. I'm going to take the 7th correct answer. No, I'm going to take the 10th correct answer. I like to just be flaky here. Okay. 10th correct answer. Okay. Fill in the blank on this one, folks. All right. Setting up your first come along trip. I love that term. Come along trip is like having a blank event for someone who opened a new business. Go. All right, we got a winner. Number 10 is Rob Thayer, and the answer is grand opening. Good listening, folks. Wow.
Well done.
I'm impressed. Great job. Rob, I'll be sending you an email gift card, so you just be watching for that coming from Amazon. Fantastic. Wonderful, wonderful webinar today. I really appreciate your time, Dave. Always love hearing about your energy when it comes to these topics, especially this one. You definitely have your heart in it, and I know you've had a lot of experience. So we appreciate you sharing that with us very much. I think we're good for now. We can't wait to see you next time again, Dave. Hopefully next month we'll do another.
Joni, thank you so much for your time. Thanks for having me today, and I appreciate everybody who tuned in.
All right. And hey, everybody, very excited that you all were with us today. Thank you for your time, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.